Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the EchoStor Microsoft Minute. My name is Steve Caprio. We've been on a bit of a hiatus here, but there's been a lot going on inside of EchoStor with the acquisition of Cyber North and some exciting new hires being brought in. But it's that time of year again, and we are getting prepared to head out to Microsoft Ignite. This year it is in San Francisco, and as you can expect, there are a lot of new announcements. There's product things coming out right now. There's some that we anticipate will be announced out there. And similar to last year, what we wanted to do was put together a video that just kind of highlighted what we thought the conference would be about, some of the focus areas that we're heading into the conference with, and then provide you with some sessions and contact information since we'll be out there and would love to meet some of you guys and get together and talk about the conference. So that being said, Microsoft did release some information about kind of the focus areas. And at this point, as of the other day, the session catalog has also been released. So by the time this video comes out, you'll probably be well on your way to building the session schedule for yourself. But the focus areas were around AI, obviously, but I think more particularly in the Copilot space with agents and multi-agent frameworks and what they're doing with inside of Microsoft 365 Copilot, Azure AI Foundry, and what's happening on the AI front inside of the Azure work areas is also a big deal for the conference. So I expect a lot there. And then Purview, really huge focus this year on Purview being, the security and compliance and governance for all of the AI that you're rolling out. So lots of interesting things to cover today. I think on the two focus areas that we'll talk about during this video and really kind of our guidelines for how we're heading to the conference are inside of Purview, specifically things around agents being embedded in there and being able to help small teams or large teams that are just having a lot of alert fatigue or maybe don't have investigations down exactly how they'd want to inside of there. We're looking at those. So the first thing I'm going to bring up is an interesting deck from Microsoft that was released a few weeks ago. So this is part of a bigger deck that they have about DSPM, but I thought, DSPM for them means a lot. Some of it is AI focused, some of it's not. I think one of the things that interested me the most about this was the alert triage agents in DLP and IRM. Basically what they're doing is taking what they've built in the security Copilot agents, or so the security Copilot for Microsoft. We talked about that in one of our other videos, but the security compute units and whatnot, but these are ones that have been embedded into Purview. And basically the idea is that they'll just continuously learn from the feedback that you provide them. They're going to adapt to the organizational workflows with your team, really having the full control of them. It's not going to be they're off on their own doing stuff without your guidance or without your ask or say so. They're just kind of working as part of your team and then operating securely within that zero trust framework. The problem that they're trying to solve here, and again, from the screen that's up, you can see there's just a high volume of alerts. And I think this is probably, not just a Microsoft specific one, but Microsoft's going to lean towards that false positive. Like, I want to make sure that you see this sort of, and that's across the board, whether it's data classification, the DLP alerts and whatnot. Some of the complexity now can be pretty high. So the time for resolution gets extended out. That complexity is driven by the fact that maybe it's a document that lives in a SharePoint somewhere, but the person who interacted with it did have sharing privileges, or, where they sent it is complex, maybe because it's an external provider, but it is a part, like someone that you trust. So there's a lot of complexity that somebody would have to work through, and the agents are going to be able to help with context there. And then just a shortage of professionals who are operating this. Some of this is there might actually be a shortage of being able to hire these folks, but a lot of it is these, you might be running on a streamlined, just really where people wear all hats sort of organization from an IT perspective, and, managing all of these alerts and really kind of being able to look at all of them becomes difficult. So this is just a quick demo of it, but essentially the agents start evaluating all of the alerts that come in on the DLP side, and then you can see up top here the agents available. We can turn that on. When we customize it, we give some time frames that we want it to be looking at, and then we can just enter plain text custom instructions. So in here, this is just an example that they gave, but basically there's a project going on called Project Obsidian. It's a confidential project for a new credit offering, and we need to make sure that documents related to that are the focus of what the agent is going to triage for us. So it'll just find and produce a reduced list for you. So it'll automatically have an area there. And again, like here's this area here that says here's the alert categorization. It needs attention. And inside of these, you can see it'll give needs attention, but it'll tell you about that document. It'll tell you the sensitivity risk, the exfiltration risk, the policy risk. So everything that one of your employees would be doing already or looking at and trying to get information for, the agent's already provided for you. And again, this is just triage, like the time consuming type of thing that you might, that people might not have the extra cycles for in some days if they're dealing with other work items. So that was the demo for this. They go into a demo on a webinar that's attached to this sheet, so we're not going to cover that today. But essentially for us, going out to Ignite, the Purview components here are important because understanding the data, where it lives, how it's interacted with, and how the new AI components, whether that's Copilot, a custom application that you've built, other LLMs, how is it attaching to accessing, reading, sharing, doing anything with the data that exists in your tenant, and Purview is sort of the central place to manage that in Microsoft land. So the fact that they've been thinking about and being upfront with like all of these AI components in Purview is great, because I think it's the real big concern for a lot of our customer base too. But the fact that they're also rolling in this AI to be used by the security professionals or the compliance professionals who operate in Purview is why we're excited to get out there. So at the end of this, we'll have a few session catalogs released. We'll have a few sessions on a page that we think are interesting from an attendance point of view that would really be worthwhile for people who are interested in, securing and protecting the data and governing the data that exists in the Microsoft tenant. Outside of Purview, we talked about a few other things that have been announced, and this literally was the day before we recorded this, so we pushed it a day just to be able to show some stuff here. But Microsoft made some announcements around Microsoft 365 Copilot and what they're bringing to bear there. So I'm just going to bring this up onto the screen. This is just a GIF from the page that they had. We did not get this into our own Copilot area just yet, since, again, it was announced yesterday. But basically, this is the app builder. This will be available in Microsoft 365 Copilot. So if you have a 365 Copilot license, this will be there. Essentially, what you can do is just tell it in plain text what type of app that you wanted to build. In this case, the person said they wanted to help capture milestones and work towards career goals. And the tool, kind of built this out. It used some documents that they had around goals and created a bit of an app for them. And again, you can iterate through this. You can message the app builder to change things about it. So really kind of a, citizen developer type announcement from Microsoft here. That's going to give people a lot easier access to doing some more complex things. The important part to note here, kind of going back to the Purview announcement, is that this is all grounded in the Microsoft 365 content. So as long as you have kind of the Purview stuff lined up the way that you want it, this tool is not going to go out and do things that you don't want it to with the data that exists in the tenant. So again, like Project Obsidian is their example. If Project Obsidian was, the DLP said don't let, Copilot use anything around that, they would be blocked from doing that. So again, it's just based on the Microsoft 365 content it has access to, and then it can actually create stuff in lists right now as well too. Next one. So the next one that they announced is the workflows agent, which I think is cool because I thought Power Automate was already fairly easy to use, and they had embedded some AI tools into Power Automate. So if you go there and tell it things, it can help build the connectors that you want or the flows that you want. In this case, you could just tell it from the get-go without having any sort of like trigger or initial build out here, like exactly what it's trying to do or what you want it to do from a flow. So in this case, if the email subject is bug, there's a reply that goes out. So just, another way that they're making it easy for users to improve their day-to-day workflow here and make it easier than just, I think the initial instance of Copilot was very much a generative, like, hey, I need to write a summary, or I need to understand kind of what's going on in this meeting. I think they're starting to flow out now into these specific agents in here for you that will be more useful for everybody across the organization. And then lastly, Copilot Studio. So the announcement here is just the ability for you to create inside of Microsoft 365 without having to leave inside of Copilot Studio, build like work grounded agent or functional agents, basically. So it'll basically ask you again in plain text what you're trying to build, and it's still lightweight. It's not like the full Copilot Studio, but it kind of builds on what they're doing in those other areas around workflows and around the app builder to say people know kind of what they want to build. They have an idea of how to explain it, but they might not necessarily know how all the pieces work and how that can be connected to other agents that exist in the org already or other app builders and things. So I think this one is interesting. I think a lot of times this is a gateway into Copilot Studio as well. So if your users are interested in really kind of building out complex, workflows and agents that are going to help achieve some efficiencies across business processes, I think this is a good starting point for Microsoft to link those two together. So learning more about this and seeing some actual examples of this, not just the GIFs on the page that they're giving us here, is going to be one of the things that we focus on when we go out there. So again, I think it's an exciting time for people who are focused on Microsoft. I think Ignite's always a great time to get together and talk with people and see what other organizations are doing, but also hear, kind of what Microsoft's vision and direction is for the coming year. So that, along with obviously all the other fun announcements around licensing and bundles and all sorts of things there, we're going to be keeping an eye on. So if you happen to be going out there, like I said, we'll have contact information for you at the end of this, along with some of the sessions that we think would be interesting, and looking forward to it. So thanks everybody for listening in, and we'll be back after the conference with some of our takeaways. Thanks.